All right, we're back at it again. Welcome back. It's Q3 week 8, day 2. Today we're going to do some silly pictures. Today we're going to use some personalized images in Adobe Photoshop CS6 to make some textures for use as diffuse maps with our Autodesk 3D Studio Max 2014 project, which is a self-portrait. All right, so today our goal is to, well, I guess, actually, let's go with the flow here. The story so far. So we fixed our UV and made sure that we prioritize smooth seams over minor distortion. We relaxed our faces and checked our work with a new checker map. So go ahead and make sure that your checker map is nice and smooth. Everything looks good. Remember, we're going to have some weird seams here and there, i.e. around the crotch where we have the separate section for the zipper we're going to do today. And some other minor places around the hands. We made sure that we have a nice smooth seam that runs right along the inside of our elbow, around the edge of our thumb as the transition point for our soft, smooth hand skin on the palms of our hands to the more rougher, usually darker skin on the back of our hands. All right, today you are going to take a bunch of silly pictures, and then we're going to create some textures that we can tile and lay them out under our UV, and then we profit, I guess. All right, so let's start. So first things first, actually, let's go ahead and look at this. So we're going to take a list out. So this is your checklist. So you probably have a smartphone. If not, maybe the person next to you has a smartphone. The idea is you need to take a whole bunch of pictures of yourself. It's selfie time, but try and avoid duck faces because that's not going to work for you. Try and keep a very neutral expression because you need about 26-ish pictures. Now, you'll notice that I don't actually have 26 when I go through mine. I made this list afterwards, after I took pictures, and I'm like, you know what? There's some pictures that I really wish I had. And with this list, you'll be able to do it. So pause the video and go through and take a picture. Now, I'm going to show you some of mine. So we're going to start. Let's see, best way to do this. Sure, okay. Let's minimize that one. Let's do that. Okay, so our checklist. Front face. So you should basically start with your front face. Then you're going to go diagonal face, side face. Now, I don't actually have a good diagonal versus side. I just sort of took these one day at school. That's my eye close up, my ear close up. I don't have a good side hair, but I'm going to use that one, I think, for my side hair. My top hair. And then my neck is next. Get it? Yeah, next. You're welcome. All right. Then we have a shirt close up. Then we have the shirt button. You'll notice that's actually the same image. You might actually be able to make or get two different ones. The idea is you want just the material of the shirt. I use this because I'm going to use the spot healing tool, and we're going to blend things out to try and make it look okay. So we're going to do that, and then the button itself, so we want a close-up of that. We're actually going to sort of blend out most of the outside part of that. Then now we want the shirt seam, the middle seam. You'll notice this is not a perfect picture, but we'll make it work. Then we have the arm top, arm bottom, hand top, hand bottom. We'll basically just pick one finger and use one finger over and over. This is the belt detail, which is over here. We're into the lower. I didn't get a fingernail close up. You will want one. That will make it really nice. I didn't get one. Only I thought about it afterwards. I'm like, man, it sure would be nice to have a fingernail close up. I'm just going to crop one of the pictures that I have. But if you get a nice close up of a fingernail, that would be super helpful. All right, and then let's see. We've got our belt close up, I said. Pants close up, which is here. This is actually a pretty big image. This is 3042. It's a huge image. I don't even know how I got that one, but yeah, it's big. And then we've got the zipper, the pants zipper close up. Now, a couple things you'll notice as we go through these pants pockets, pants seams. you'll notice there's coloration issues. I took these at home, and there's two different sources of light. So you can see that there's like a minor discoloration. It's kind of hard to see, but not really. You can see it's much darker like here. That's going to be a pain. We're going to basically just use this section down here when we go to use the seam, but whatever. Then we got shoe top, shoe bottom, and shoe side. And that's basically it. So once again, I'm going to maximize this for you. Let's see. All right, pause it, and then take your pictures, and then label them all out, and then put them in a folder, and then start me up again. All right, good job. I'm sure you did a great job taking all your pictures, and super. So now we're going to keep going. You've got all your pictures. You got them in a folder. You've numbered them, so they're easy to get to. Now we're going to start our general textures, okay? So first things first, general textures. So the idea here is we've got this, but we're really not going to mess with this much today. I'm going to minimize this. If you have 3D Studio open, that's fine, but we don't really need it. We really need the UV, and we need Photoshop. So let's start at the very beginning here. Let's go ahead and create a folder and call it, let's call it shirt. Let's start with a shirt. All right, so I'm going to grab the shirt close-up, which for me is number 9. Okay, that's not a great picture, but it's going to have to work. I'll drag that in and let go. All right, cool. Now, I'm going to zoom in by holding Alt and then middle mouse button, or middle mouse wheel, and I'm going to make this bigger too. Now, realistically, this is way bigger than we're ever going to use, but what I need to do is I want to make sure that my shirt has a texture to it, like a ridge, or ridges to it. So what I want to do is I want to get the color and the feel of the material without actually having the material, like without having to deal with the material itself. I also want to probably take one of these seams and figure out a way to crop it out too. So this is going to call shirt close-up, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure I've placed it, okay? So now I can move it around if I need to. But what I want to do is I want to create a square, right? So I'm actually going to go up here in this area up here and grab this tool and make sure for my selection tool, I actually want to make sure I've got this 09 shirt close-up. I'm going to change it so instead of style, instead of normal, I'm going to change it to fixed ratio, which is 1:1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the place that I think has got the best sort of generic color. Now, if you've got a generic color shirt and you can just sort of go with that, that's fantastic. Like what I'm looking for is preferably something without any real differentiation in color. This isn't a great image, but we'll just have to use what we have. So I'm going to take this section right here, and I think this is going to be fine. So today we're going to use invert selection. So I've got this layer selected. I've selected a box. Now I'm going to go to select inverse, which is Shift Control I. So Shift Control press I, and what it does is actually highlights everything except what I had selected. So now when I hit delete, it's like, hey, you can't edit that because I need to rasterize the layer. Now if I hit delete, now I get just that cube. Right now, once again, this has got to be way smaller. I'm dealing with a much larger image than I need to currently, but that's okay. It's easier to work with, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm going to deselect the area so that I've just got this, so I should be able to minimize that and sort of look at it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to duplicate my shirt close-up, click OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this shirt close-up copy. I'm going to hit Control T, which lets me do my transform tools. Right-click, and I'm going to flip this vertically. So the top is now going to be the bottom. What that allows me to do is it means the bottom is now the top. And if I hold shift and make sure I have my selection, I'm going to apply the transformation. I'm going to select the move tool, hold shift and drag up. What I want to do is I want to have the exact same material on top and bottom, and I want the lines to perfectly match up. Okay, perfectly match up. Now I'm going to hold shift and make sure they just perfectly line up like that. It's almost like a mirror, right? So we're basically using the kaleidoscope method, right? So now I'm going to take these two, I'm going to merge them together, merge layers here. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this whole thing, Control T again, right click, and this time I'm going to flip it horizontally. All right, oops, I forgot to make copy first. So I'm going to hit escape, right click, make a copy. So duplicate layer, click OK. Then Control T, like I said before, right click, flip horizontal. All right, now same sort of process. Now I can shift and drag it over, and it should be a mirror again. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, it might be better for me if I don't have it perfectly aligned, right? I just want to make sure it's pretty close, because what it's probably better to make it perfect. Come on. I'll hold shift and line it right up. There. Cool. Enter. Now I'm going to merge those two layers. Merge. Cool. Now, theoretically, this should tile. Okay, so now if I take this and copy it, duplicate layer, no matter what direction it copies, it should always line up with itself. Like each edge should line up perfectly with the edge below it. Okay, now you do get this weird sort of pattern to it, which is not ideal, but we're going to fix that in a second. So now that we have this, I'm actually going to delete one of these layers. Delete layer. Sure. All right, I'm going to call this shirt close up and get rid of all the copy stuff. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the clone stamp. Okay, that's over here, this tool right here. Click the clone stamp tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the edge of the clone stamp is soft. Okay, so my hardness is going to be really, really low, and my spacing is going to be really dense. All right, down to 1%. Okay, so now, and I can resize it however I need to, but I'm going to hold Alt so I can change the cursor and select somewhere where I've got like a nice even tone. So let's say here. Right? And so what I'm looking for is I'm trying to find a way where I can even out some of those discolorations from being, just a different, like part of the shading and shadowing and stuff. So basically what I'm trying to do is make it a little more generic. Now I do also, you can sort of see what I'm dealing with here. So I'm trying to find like a middle ground like that. And then I'm going to try and line it up with the edges that are there and try and get rid of some of that not weird, but some of the discoloration from being copied, right? So I'm going to do that here and there and just find different places and try and smooth things out a little bit. Just enough to make it so that it doesn't quite feel so copied, so wrinkly, I guess. All right, that lines up there-ish. Maybe this one over there is okay. You'll notice I'm sort of haphazard here. I'm trying to keep sort of the same spacing, but as long as it's close, I'm not too concerned. What I really want to do is I want to break up any sort of like weird shadows, like this shadow over here. But I want to do it in a way where I get I'm sort of evening out the color tone of the entire thing. Sometimes it's kind of hard to do, sometimes it's not. But I don't want to get too close to the edge because the edge is going to perfectly transition currently. If I get too crazy, it won't. If I get too close to the edge, it won't transfer perfectly anymore. It won't evenly move when we start copying it around. You can spend a lot of time or not a lot of time on this. It's kind of up to you. Ideally, it'll be a smoothish look. Basically, just keep finding spots that will transition a little bit. And I've gotten rid of some of the problem. That big X is the biggest problem. I just need to find a way to eliminate that big X. There. It should be sort of more even now, at least somewhat. There. It's a little less. You can see there's somewhat of a edge issue. Maybe I can grab this and sort of move it in through here. I want to zoom in a little bit. Alright, I think I'm about done, or at least I'm done enough. We don't want to spend too much time on this because you could literally get lost, totally lost in this, just trying to make it absolutely perfect. There's, you know, that's cool, but also we got other things we got to get done today. So we're just trying to get it to the point where it's close and then take it from there. There's like 2 more dark spots I want to get rid of, and then I think I'm done for the day, at least on this. All right, cool. So that's sort of even. You can see there's a spot here-ish. I would say there's a spot maybe there and maybe some there. There. Have that. Maybe put it there. Try and even out those sort of blemishes. And sometimes that's enough. Just like a little dab, here and there. Happy little stitch. All right, cool. Now, great. Now that's fine, but realistically, that needs to be way smaller. But now that we've got it so it's evenly spaced, and then relatively smooth, and relatively well positioned, I'm ready to start moving this around. So we know that our shirt itself is going to be made up of mostly straight lines moving up and down the shirt. Okay, now this is the front of the shirt up here, but we know that it's going to be way smaller. Place that there. Then holding Alt, I'm zooming in. All right. Cool. So that should be a pretty decent density. I just am sort of ballparking roughly what I think it's where it is or how dense it is. But now I take this and I copy that duplicate layer. Okay. And I'm going to hold Shift and make it line up. There. Cool. Take these, duplicate layer. This thing gets bigger and bigger as it goes, and if you want, it should transition perfectly here. There you go. So now I've got all 4 of these, and I can merge those layers. All right, keep doing it. The nice thing is, as this gets bigger, it's basically finishing and like it's quickly becoming way less work, right? So we're going to duplicate the layer again. Click OK. Move it over. There we go. Now, once again, you start seeing where the seams are. If that's the case, don't be afraid to like just go ahead and take one that's underneath. Oops. Or sure, we'll take this one that's on top. I'm going to overlap it a little bit, and then I'm going to see if I can delete this edge on my own. So I'm just going to take this top part and sort of blend it out. So I can overlap it a little bit. Now, like I said, theoretically, it shouldn't be too tough because I should just be able to go through, make sure I have a nice soft eraser with a nice soft edge, because that really is going to make or break. See, whoops. That's going to really make or break that seam. Nice and soft right through there. And the flow, I'm going to set the flow to like 10%, because then I can just come from here, sort of blend it through a little bit. Now, all I'm looking to do, and since the grooves on the shirt already sort of blend up and down, I can erase that seam relatively easily. Cool. So now I've got those two. I'm going to merge the layers, and then I'm going to do the whole thing again. Duplicate layer, okay, and then grab it and slide it down. And once again, I don't like that X, and like from this angle you're gonna notice a lot more. Let's see which one's on top. This one's on top. You're gonna notice this sort of weird patterning, but once again, you can sort of eliminate some of it just by erasing and feathering out one edge a little bit, and there. Cool. So once again, if you have the time, you can do duplicate layer. Okay. Let's merge those two. And then you can even take that and hold shift, scoot it over. Cool. Take all of them, merge them together, duplicate the layer. Okay, so, and now I'm taking it all the way down, holding shift again. Now I'm really, this time I'm only going to take it down as far as the shirt's going to go. There. I can take these, merge them together. I can duplicate it again, and this is totally just to get rid of some of the weird patterning. Take it, move it a little bit, and then erase seams. So this time I'm going to go in with a brush again. I want to go a larger scale brush and just start blending through some of this. Anytime I see like any sort of like any weird seaming, like seams or anything like that, or if like something like that, just to make it a little more even, just to break it all up, so there's not like an obvious pattern here. Now if you do it too much, you're just going to end up with the same pattern, slightly different, or at least, you know, you're still going to have a pattern, it's just going to be modeled a little bit. Realistically, we should be good. Alright, cool. So I'm going to drag this above everything. And now I'm going to use a hard eraser, and I'm going to merge these two, merge layers. And then I'm going to use a really hard eraser with a really strong flow. And I'm going to just full on delete wherever I don't want the shirt to be, so all the hair. So I'm going to get a pretty large brush here too. So just now, as you know, with all UVs, you want to make sure you're coloring outside the lines. All right, now my collar is right there, and I don't need to worry too much about like, I don't know, like other stuff. I just need to make sure that it's close enough that I'm not going to get into my hairpiece or anything like that. I just want to make sure that that's set. So now this is my shirt, like my shirt color. Cool. Great. So we know that's done, and I know I need to erase that, so we're good. That's pretty easy. So that process, we're going to do the same thing with the pants now. The exact same thing with the pants. So we can go ahead and save this while we're thinking about it. I'll save as, and we're in 2, so call this end. And cool. All right, great. So pants. Once again, well, I'm not putting in pockets or anything like that. For one, I'm using the same left and right side. So unless I'm going to have a pocket on both sides of my shirt, I'm not going to be able to put a pocket in there, and that's okay. But I will need buttons and seams and stuff like that, and we'll deal with that in a little bit. But for now, that's probably enough. Now, if the shirt seam is going to go the opposite direction for the sleeve, which it will, we'll have to deal with that also in a second. So we want to make sure we don't screw up this layer. I want to put it in the shirt folder, and then I'm going to lock that folder. You can press the lock button. That way you can't accidentally screw anything up. So if I try and erase it, it won't let me. Okay, cool. So this is my UV. I'm going to call it UV so I remember, and it should generally stay on top. Okay, pants. Let's get our pants. Reference images, find your pants, should be number 19. Cool. Same exact process. We're going to take this, hold shift, and rotate it 90 degrees. And then I'm going to minimize it some. Now I'm looking for a generic color. Like, I want to keep it consistent. Exact same process we just used. I'm going to use the fixed ratio again. When I took this picture, it was really sort of bright. I wasn't happy with how bright it was. We're going to have the same sort of issues we had. Remember, Control-Shift-I is for inverse. I need to make sure I rasterize the layer, hit delete, and now I've got my square. Now, this is the same sort of thing, same sort of process. I need to select somewhere else, grab the layer, and then do the same thing. So first things first, I've got to duplicate the layer. Okay. And now I've got Control-T. I'm going to flip it horizontal or vertical. Let's just go ahead and do horizontal. All right. So that means it went from right to left. So now this comes over here and should blend in like that. Make sure there's no seam. There we go. Cool. Take these two. I need to hit enter. Take these two, merge them, and then we're going to flip them vertically. Merge layers, right, Control-T, right click, flip vertically. All right, move it up. Hold shift, make sure, oops. Oh, I forgot to make a duplicate again. Where was I? Here we go. Right click, duplicate layer. Okay. You probably knew that. You're probably saying, Donnan, you forgot. You're a jerk. Or where was I? Oh yeah, I'm flipping. Control-T. Flip vertical. Alright. Move this up. Once again, it should transition relatively smoothly. And click OK. Enter. Alright. Now, make sure that it's relatively even. Once again, you can see there's a ridge here and a ridge there. We're going to have to sort of blend those out. Same process again. Use the clone stamp. Take these, merge them together. Merge layers. Make sure you're merging layers, not visible. That would be bad. And then we are going to take that and do our clone stamp. So I'm gonna try a big generic. See, I'm trying to get in here somewhere to blend that out. Here, maybe blend that out. I like this sort of like evenness here and here. I'm trying to use this sort of interior portion because it's less cloudy and it's a little more consistently colored, which is what I'm looking for. I'm trying not to get too close to the edge. You know, you gotta walk the fine line. Man, I really wanted to sing for you there. I was gonna do some Johnny Cash, Walk the Line, but I spared you. You can send your thank you letters to cndonan@gmail.com. All right, cool. So this is all basically good-ish. We've evened it out some, and it's better. It's less obviously cloudy. There we go. So we've got that, we've got there, and that's all moving through and sort of smoothing. Okay, that's sort of generically colored. All right, cool. So let's take this and duplicate the layer. All right, so we got that. And I think already the density of the material is pretty good. We're going to do all the detail stuff in a second, but for now, that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and take that. We duplicated it already. So let's go ahead and move it up like this and transition like that. Great. Merge those two. Merge layers. All right. And then we duplicate it. Okay. Move it over. And I'm going to, that's a pretty harsh seam right there. And that's okay. We're going to delete that top one again, just like we did before. I'm going to grab that top layer and I'm going to go back down to 10% flow, and then I'm just literally going to start erasing that. Ooh, too big. There we go. I just want to sort of blend it through so there's no obvious blend, like seam. Cool. That's pretty good. Take those two, merge them together, and then duplicate it again. So duplicate layer. Okay, I'm going to offset one by a little bit. The top one, I'm going to offset it by that much. Sure. And now I want to put both of them where I'm going to want them ish, and then I'm going to move my UV up above them so I can see, so that I can sort of, if I can, the ideal thing would be to have both of them overlapping a bit, the actual thing that I want, and then just blend through some of them, right? So I take the top one, and then using the eraser tool, anything that I think is sort of discolored or whatever, I'll just take that and rub it out a little bit. Get rid of that there, some there, maybe here. Once again, I'm just trying to break up any sort of pattern that may look like that's there. So you can see there is a texture here. There's a threading that we're trying to hold on to. Once I've got all that done and laid out, which I think I do, I'm going to go through and do a hard erase on the pieces that I don't need. So 100% flow for the eraser. And now I'm just going to literally go through and erase it. Oh, I can merge these two as well. Merge layers. Grab. Oh, I don't want to erase that, but I do want to save my hands. Whoops. I can go big. There. I didn't turn up my spacing up, so it's still at 25, which is super annoying. I 99.9% always want spacing to be at 1%. I don't know who thinks the default should be set. I bet there's a way to fix that, but I don't know it offhand. I should totally look that up. And I've said that to myself multiple times. Anyway, this is the inside section of the pant leg there, so that's good. All right, cool. We're doing pretty solid. Great. So now we've got like a texture on our pants. One thing I did do at the end of the, I didn't mention it, but at the end of the last video, I took the UV and I flattened out this bottom part of my pants so it's nice and straight. That gives me a slight distortion, but it's going to make the next section super easy. So the idea is, what I want to do is I want to put little details in, and I also want to make sure I know where my edges are. So for instance, I know that my seam here, back in 3D, if I select my seam, I know that those two are on the side of my seam, like where my pants seam is going to be. Okay, that's really important because when I add my unwrap modifier, I look at it, I need to find out where that seam is because I want to put that pant seam in there, right? So I'm going to say, okay, those two are right there. So that means this loop, this edge right here is where I need to put my pants seam. Okay, now my pants seam will run right into basically where my pocket is and all that other stuff. I also need to sort of figure out where my butt pocket will go, right, which is right about there. All right, cool. So we'll come back to that in a minute. All right, and we'll be able to adjust that in a second. Let's go ahead and create a new folder and call it pants. Honey, where are my pants? Pants. Cool. All right, great. So pants material. Cool. 19 pants material. I'm going to drag that into pants. Once again, everything's under UV. Later on, it'll be really important as to shirt versus pants, which one is higher if we have overlapping. We shouldn't, but we might, so we need to keep that in mind. But for now, we're okay. The next thing we need to do is bring in our next piece of art. Now, this will probably be one of the last couple pieces that I do for this section on pants and shirts and stuff. Because now what I need to do is start looking at how this looks on the model. Like we know that from our 3D Studio, we know that this seam here, right? I think this knee portion where that bends, our knee portion, the one that it points at is the seam for the side of the pants. And we know that the inside seam is the one we sliced along. So that means all I really need to do is think about where my next seam is going to go. So let's go over our reference images. This is a pretty good seam. Let's do that one. Pants seam. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, cool. Pants seam 1. I have 2. Let's bring in 2. My 2, I have pants seams 2 because this pants seam is really great because of this. Don't place, not yet. Oh, dang it. Yeah, there we go. It's really great because, because it's got the bottom of the pants itself, like the actual seam of the pants are right there, which is going to be great because we're going to use that as the bottom layer of our seam for our pants in general. I'm making it small-ish. Now we know that our seam should run right along there, right? And then this is going to go right there-ish. Perfect. Okay, so this section here is a good color. This is not. That's not a good color. It's bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pants seam itself, and I'm going to erase everything off of that image. I'm going to put it in the pants folder, and I'm going to put it above the material because I need it to be above the material. And now I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to delete it by first rasterizing, and then I'm going to delete all the parts that are discolored. Right? So, and I'm also going to get rid of all the parts that I don't want. And I'm using a hard brush now, but I'm going to fix that in a minute. Okay, make sure I get rid of the thing that I took it off of. Alright, cool. Alright, now we're dealing with a relatively low resolution image, and that's fine. Let's make this 10 again, and then I'm going to shrink this down. What I want to do is I want to be able to blend this in. So the idea here is that I'm going to try and blend this in and then resize it so that the material is roughly the same size. Now I do have, looks like I have some sort of, there you go, there. I may need to blow it up a little bit to make it match. Whoa, oops. What do we got here? So I'm going to go outside the lines a little bit. Put it just like that. And I need to think about how big that seam's going to be. Right? And then resize it accordingly. And then it's going to be very, very similar to what we did before. I'm going to take it, find out where exactly I want it. Like that. Hit enter. Duplicate the layer. Okay. Drag the new one over. Make sure it, Control T, flip it horizontal so it lines up again. There you go. Take those pant seams, merge them, and then duplicate the layer again. Now that should automatically blend through, or at least be close. Now, is it ideal? No, it's not ideal. It obviously blends through a little weird. It may not look great. May look obvious. It's hard to tell. The best way I could say to sort of tweak that is, number one, I think I was getting a pretty hard blend on that. I think when I was erasing it, I was doing it with this brush that was probably too hard. I should have done it more like this, but I think I can still sort of get away with it. Yeah. If I go basically right up to it, I might be okay. Yep. I need to make sure I've got them both, and I will merge them. Merge layers, and then once again. Now make sure you're doing the seam and not, you don't want to blend out your object itself. Now it's going to take quite a bit of rubbing here, back and forth, to make sure that blends out properly. And it looks like I'm going to need a second layer, so I'm going to duplicate the layer again. And then move it again. And then I'll blend it through again. This one can go out more. Holding shift if I need to, which I probably kind of do. So I'm going to merge those layers together. I can shrink those down a little bit, and then I can, using the erasing tool, and it's okay if you're over the actual object a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, because if it blends in nicely, that's perfect. Cool. All right. Probably good enough. Now what we need to do is sort of decide, okay, does it look good? And if so, great. So we're going to call that bottom seam. Bottom seam. And now we're going to start testing. So this is the first thing that's pseudo problem, like not problematic, but something we need to double check to make sure it looks good. Right. The way we're going to do that is we're actually going to go into 3D Studio and use my Photoshop file as my material. So I'm going to hit P, hit M, and now I'm going to make sure that the Photoshop file is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go, doesn't really matter. I'll take this one. I don't know what it is. I'm going to delete it. It's okay. So now it's empty. I'm going to go into none for my diffuse map, and I'm going to change it to the actual Photoshop file. And it's going to ask me, once it loads, if I want to do the whole Photoshop file or if I just want to do part of it. So under maps, I'm going to use a bitmap. Click OK. And I'm going to go into the proper folder. 1516 classes, 3D, 9, material creation, end. Yes. Okay, now we're going to hit open, and it's going to show you this. Now we're going to want the collapsed layers, so we're going to click OK on this. Now it's going to keep it whatever we saved it last. So I'm going to hide the UV layer and hold Control and hit S for save. So I've saved it. Now if I minimize this, come back, and I can take this and drag it onto my dude. I'm going to collapse this all. Collapse all. So that should be fine. Alright, cool. So now I got to go up and then make sure it's showing in viewport. Alright, cool. So that's where we're at so far. So we look at our seam at the bottom. It looks kind of cool. Looks pretty okay. I think that looks appropriately sized. See, goes all the way around. Looks alright. We're going to put an outside seam on this next. Now, obviously, everything else isn't colored yet. This looks okay. It doesn't look like too blotchy. Then this looks weird a little bit, but we can fix that. Also, it's weird that this is straight the whole way, and we'll fix that too. Anyway, so that's cool. So now all we need to really do is log back in here every once in a while and just double check, see how it's going. So I'm gonna put my UV back on. If I don't hide the UV before I save it, and I have to save it for it to actually work, but that's kind of the thing. So I'm gonna drag in my pants seam. Now this is my big seam. This will be the one we use a lot. I'm gonna hold shift so I'm not resizing anything. Alright, so I'm only going to use part of this, just like we talked about before. I'm just going to find this part of the seam that I like, and I don't really even care how much crazy detail I get on it. That's probably good enough, but I'm going to erase it too. So once again, I just want part of this image, right? And that's kind of the theme for today. We just want part of the image. All right. Take this. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to rotate it so it's basically straight. And then hit enter. And now I'm going to erase it using a soft brush with a nice smooth edge, which I think I've got. Good. Yes, we want to rasterize it. So now I'll blend that out. Now we're taking a good chunk of this out. We really just want that seam. Now it may seem like a little bit of overkill and like maybe a little silly to do all of this, but it really makes a huge difference in how it looks. Like what sort of like if it feels real. I really think this material down here, especially even just the seam here, makes just a huge difference in the way it looks. So I'm going to take that seam and I'm going to duplicate it again. Click OK. Hit W and I'll move it up. Now I'm going to continue to use that as a guide. That seam that I have there as a guide. It's, that's kind of important. And then once again, I'm going to apply and then delete out a little bit of that so it's smoothish, and merge them. Merge layers. So we'll call this side seam. And duplicate the layer. Okay. Now at some point we're actually going to need to move this around a bit because we need to do it. We need to get the other section going for the pocket. Right. That's roughly where it should be. Once again, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. I'm going to get the eraser out, get rid of these weird corners. That means they're probably here somewhere too. So side seam, merge. Yep, they were there, being sneaky. All right, cool. Now, just as a sort of reminder, we'll take that away. Look at that. Hold Control, hit S for save. We'll go back into 3D and see how it looks. Oh, see that? Oh, it looks so real. Look at that. Oh man, photorealistic. Nathan Drake, eat your heart out. It looks blurry. Whatever. The point that also it looks like I've got like weird dots there. Probably should fix that. I didn't notice it before, but that's definitely an issue. But that's what we do. So this whole process, you're just going to keep doing. Now, everybody's pants, everybody's shirts, everything you've got is different. So you're going to have to, you have your own little challenges. But this process is the same. So let's go ahead and go back real quick. Look at our UV. Find our side seam and then get rid of that weird dot that we had. I think I fixed it. I think. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and do the pockets, and then I'll. Well, yeah. Let's do the pockets. All right. Bring it in the pocket. Okay. Cool. All right. Grab it here. Holding shift will lock it to a logical direction. Holding shift again, lock it to a logical orientation. Now my pants are the wrong direction, so I need to Control T, enter to place, right, Control T, and flip horizontal. Cool. Now actually we're going to get two pieces out of this because we need the top and we need the pocket itself. Cool. We need the pocket itself more than anything, and then we'll take it from there. So once again, we're going to rotate some, and we need to sort of figure out size-wise how big this thing is going to be. And that's once again why it's so helpful to have this art, the ability to move. And yeah, it looks like it's freaking out. Let's just hit enter and let it think about it for a second. To have the ability to sort of proof it in 3D is critical. It's super valuable. Basically, I'm rotating this and trying to get it to the point where it's going to look okay. Hit enter. Yeah. Cool. Now, same sort of process we've been doing before. I've got the pocket that I want. I've got it roughly where I want it. I don't know if it's the size I want it at, but it's close enough. Now I'm going to erase a huge chunk of it. Rasterize the content. And then go in and get rid of it. All of this for sure. And then probably most of that as well. Because once again, I'm just looking for the pocket. I'll come back. I'll bring this image back in for that back pocket. But for now, I don't want to bother with it. And yeah, I went too much. I did too much. There. I should use a bigger brush. It's better. There. Less craziness. But that pocket I will come back to in a second. I don't want to get too close because I like that dark seam at the top. I'm probably going to use that. I'm going to come back for that back pocket in a minute. And for now, I'm just trying to like blend it all out. Because all I want is the look of that front pocket. Cool. It's super frustrating when you have all that. Let's go ahead and do this and see if we can get rid of all that extra stuff. If I hide these layers, I can probably see better if there's extra stuff around. There. That's better. Okay, cool. I'm going to turn these back on so I can see. All right. Now, like I said, I don't exactly know how big this pocket should be. I'm going to guess that it's going to be that big. And I'm using the top because I know the belt line roughly. The belt lines up directly with this green seam. So, and I know that I'm going to line up my other seam with it. Now I may have to like duplicate this layer and even just adjust some stuff or whatever. And I may need to use a light touch on the brush to do some more. But actually, let's just see where that is. I want to turn the UV off, hit save, and then check in the 3D. Alright, how do we do? Does that look okay? Looks like it's a little kind of off to the side, and it's not terrible. I know we don't have belt loops. It's moderately embarrassing, but it is what it is. I think that's kind of okay. I think it's okay. I think we should just go with it. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I'll take it. So we'll hide that. Put our UV back on. And then that also lets us know where our seam needs to go all the way up to. So I can take our seam in a second. But I'm going to go and blend. Since I still have the pants pocket done, I'm just going to do that. I want to get a bigger brush and just softly see if I can nudge that away. And still keep some of it like that. I think I am going to get rid of that edge, that dark edge there. Yeah, sure. Once again, you can get as crazy as you want. Side seam. I'm going to duplicate the side seam. Duplicate layer. Okay, it's underneath the pocket. So that means I can literally just sort of move it up like this, and it'll sort of blend in. And then I can just delete what I don't want if it's doubling up on something or whatever. So just go through and say, all right, that's you are gone. You are gone. There. So now I've got roughly a seam that sort of blends in. Maybe too much. Good enough. Good enough. No, not good enough. I may have to adjust one. I think I can. Yeah, I'm going to take this and just move it. Scoot it back a little bit like that. There. No one's going to notice that. That's fine. Boom. Good enough. Cool, cool. So that's the process you're going to use to put pockets in, to put all that sort of stuff down, so that everything you need is set. Now, once again, everybody has different requirements. Everyone's going to have different things that they need to do. Now, one thing that I will do before we sort of move on is the crotch. Now, we spent time on the crotch making sure that we had like a double seam here. Especially now, you can see the problem there, and there's not much we can do about that. That's going to be a seam kind of no matter what. So because of that, I mean, it is what it is, you know. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at this part here. All right. All right. Where was I? All right. Get my images. The crotch. All right. We're going to bring that into the right program. Zipper. Cool. It's going to go on the top layer of the pants, and we're going to resize it. And it's going to go there-ish, and we're going to turn our UV back on so we can see the lines to color in. Okay. Once again, we are sort of adjusting this. Now, realistically, this should fit directly in that space that we have. Like from there, in that spot. I'm going to try and line it up with that center line, just like that. Cool. And then it's the same sort of process. We just delete everything we don't want. Rasterize layer and start deleting. Now the button, once again, the button's going to go, because the button technically is underneath the belt. A nice big brush here is probably smart, because that'll give you a nice soft edge on the edge there. Once again, the coloration was a problem in that image. but I just want that section there. Even if it blends out, like it fades the image itself, that's probably okay. All right, cool. Now, to clean this up, we need the bottom seam or the pants material. One way to sort of ease this problem is using this clone tool and then actually doing a spot clone. So I know that this part here needs to look exactly like that. Now I'm going underneath, and this spot here needs to look like this. And this spot here needs to look like that. And then I do halfway through. And if I use a big enough brush, it kind of is just enough. This spot here looks like that. This spot here looks like that. This should help eliminate the problem we were having with having that seam, because what I'm doing is I'm basically finding the right spot and duplicating what it should roughly look like. So now that that's done, let's turn our UV off, hit save, Control S, and jump back. And there it is. Too small though, huh? Too small. It's a tiny little zipper. All right, let's fix it. Pants zipper. Turn our UV back on. Now, what we were working on before to eliminate that seam that we were working off of, that's all fixed still. It's all good to go. There's nothing we need to do there. It's done. So, turn off the UV, Control S for save. Let's check it again. And see, better. So that edge is still problematic because of what we just did with the UV. Now underneath it should be fine, but the zipper itself has gotten bigger, which means it overlaps more, which means we need to blend it out better. So should be pretty easy. Now we can get a pretty hard, do a lot of erasing through here, because if I erase pretty hard through there, it should be fine. I may need to, yeah, let's probably do that. Go to the pants material, clone brush, say this needs to look like that, this needs to look like that, this needs to look like that. There, that should be better. And for the zipper, we just make sure we've erased enough to where it's not actually blending into the seam. Like I said, we can do a really good scrubbing job on that seam in particular, because we don't want that to blend through at all. At all. It was overkill, but you get the idea. There. Control, turn the UV off, Control S. If you don't turn the UV off, you'll have green lines in your 3D. See? Did you watch it disappear? If not, you can sort of rewind it and see how it blends out. Cool. Cool. Alright. So the same exact process would happen with the shirt. Now we've got a seam through here, through one of these sections. You can barely see it, but we do have a seam that runs through there. But you're going to want to add a seam for the arm, and you're probably going to want to change this section as well. This, you might want to adjust, you might not. It's easy to do. But at this point, that part's done. Now, I will do one more sort of thing before I leave you, which will be show you how to use the warp tool, because we still need to like put a pocket in. There's a bunch of other little details we can add. But depending on how much time you have, you need to sort of decide, do you have time to make things look awesome, or you just kind of got to get it done. And that's Always the catch. So this is our shoe. Let's go ahead and bring in our shoe and start talking about that. Let's bring this in like that. So this is my big old shoe picture. Got that sweet, sweet teacher money making this, wearing the ball of shoes. Same exact process as before. I'll put this underneath the UV. I'll just put it directly under the UV for now. Now, first things first, I'm going to get rid of a lot of this extra stuff. Erase. I already cropped a lot of my images. You're probably going to have to do that too. But I'm going to rasterize the layer, and then I'm going to start blending in. Now, the shoes are not critical. People should not be staring at your shoes that often. And I'm going to blend out all the way up to the side here. Like, I want to make sure there's no... It's soft, but I want to make sure I'm blending all the way out. We're going to use a tool today for the shoes called Warp. Now the side of the shoe, I'm going to roughly line up here. Now I'm going to use the Warp tool. Now Control T, I think I have to, yep, Control T, and now I'm going to use the Warp tool. Now the Warp actually gives you options where you can blend and bend things. So you can do a lot of crazy stuff and get some really, really neat looking edges going on here. And what it does is it allows us to sort of warp out this image in a way that we can then use in a, like I said, in a kind of crazy way. So I'm going to do that. Trying to get it to sort of flow here. Once again, we're not, and then once you have it kind of close, you can do it, and then you can warp it again. Control T, right click, warp. And now I don't know if you can actually see that right click. Sometimes the program has trouble with it showing you that step. All right, cool. Now that that is done, that shoe side, I'm going to duplicate that layer. And then Control T, I'm going to flip vertically. And now I'm going to move it, apply, and do the same thing. Now I don't care. Notice this is the back part of the shoe, so I'm not too concerned about that part. And once again, you'll notice I'm not doing the top part or the front part of the shoe much. I'm just sort of making it look sort of the same there. Cool. Now I'm going to bring in my shoe top. It's going to think about it. And I did not crop this image very well. Click OK. Rasterize the layer. Shrink it down to something manageable. Move it in. And rotate it, apply. Okay, cool. So you see I'm basically sort of like lining it up-ish best I can. Hit enter, and now I'm going to erase a lot of it. Whole lot. And it's going to sort of be blurry and weirdly mixed in with the other shoe. But you can sort of see where I'm going for here. Trying to get some place in the middle. Cool. That's kinda it. Kinda. Cool. Let's see how that looks. That might be okay. Might look terrible. We'll find out. Let's see. Turn off the UV. That's a weird looking thing. Alright. But you can see the idea we're going for. Control S. And let's check out them kicks. Dang! Back at it again. Oh, you can hate me. It's okay. All right, so yeah, that kind of looks okay, right? It's surprisingly, and that only took like what, a few seconds. That was pretty good. I mean, it's blurry and ugly here. We probably need to fix that, and we probably can relatively easily. I'll minimize that. I think I probably should need that shoe back in, and maybe focus on making it link into the center, and then once it's all sort of together, I'll blend it together and be done with it. But you see, the process here is what's critical, right? So obviously I've got these like stitching lines that I'm trying to make sure line up relatively well, and now especially at this layer, the shoe top, I'm going to rasterize it. I'm really going to get heavily, I'm just going to focus on those sections right there so that it works. Now I can try and make sure that we blend in, or like warp in. I undid a few there. Hopefully your shoes aren't quite as complicated. They probably are. They may be more complicated. But what we can do here is take it and then once again use that warp tool. That warp tool is really, really cool, because it really does allow you to do a whole lot of stuff, and really line things up that have no business lining up. You know, I can take that there and I can pull that out, try and get that lined up like that. See, I've sort of got it lined up, at least good enough, I think. Then I can go through and delete, make sure I get rid of that. So that kind of looks like one continuous line. Ish. I mean, I'm happy with it. There is still the shoe side. I should take all those and blend them. I'll merge these together. Cool. Save. And see how it looks. Watch quick. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, considering how blocky they are anyway. That's pretty impressive. Even the back looks okay. I mean, it's sort of hidden anyway. The bottom of the soles are the next part, which is once again where you're going to use the warp tool. So let's pull the UV back on. This gray section here, I mean, we get fancy, I suppose. Bring this in. Shrink it down. All we're really looking for is the color. So once that's done, we'll go ahead and erase a good chunk of it. Yes, we're going to rasterize it. Raster. I don't know. We're going to make it so we can erase it. And get rid of all this bad color. We're just looking for this gray. More than anything, we just want that gray. Make sure we're not overlapping anything. Let's see. Erase some more. All right, cool. I'm going to duplicate that a few times. And I'll flip it. Control T, right click, Flip horizontal. Make it so it's there. Take both of those, merge them together. Merge layers. I'm going to actually expand them like this just to make it fatter. There. And then I'm going to put it underneath the shoe itself. And then I'm going to erase it some more. This time I'll go hard again. And then I'm going to hold shift and click over here, and that'll give me a really nice instantaneous edge that will make sure I don't have any problems. Now all we have left is the shoe bottom, which I'm getting and dragging over in just like we did before. Place the file, rotate the file. Oh, my shoe's facing down this time. Holding shift so I can go 90 degrees. Place it. Now once again I'll use the warp. I know it looks like it flips out. You get the idea. Now you can get as crazy as you want about this. Like I said, I'm going to use the warp again, but really I just want to sort of get the right idea. So once that's done, I'm going to hit place it, Control T, right click, warp, warp. All I really want is I want it to blend all the way across. And I don't want it to be out at all. Like you can get really, like you can get this almost square by using this tool here. To get that pretty square, and you can pull, give me a little handle. Thank you. I mean, realistically, nobody looks at shoes, especially the bottoms of shoes. But it's kind of fun to learn. What is up with that? Okay. That's pretty good. Once again, I'm going to go with my eraser. Hard edge. 100%. Okay, good. I'm holding shift as I click here, and it's giving me, that's a little too close. You want to make sure you have enough outside of the edge. But I'm basically holding shift so it deletes in a line. Notice my hand is in there, and that's not going to work. Let me pull that out. There. Control T, right click, warp. There. I think that looks pretty good. Turn off the UV, save, and I think we're going to be done for the day. Now, with that said, you may have a lot more you need to do. Yeah, look at those cool shoes. That's pretty cool. See, now I've got the color on the shoe. Got like even sort of the stitching looking sort of all right. It's got some, the right. It's got a line to it. That's pretty cool. Pants look good. I would say that now you want to go through and put the buttons on. Same sort of process for the buttons for the shirt. This is good. Also, make sure you're constantly managing your layers. I'm going to call the shoes. I'm going to drag everything into there because I'm happy with it. I want to keep it that way. I don't want to minimize that. Pants. You could probably bring the shoes underneath the pants. I like to keep things in some sort of logical manner. That's probably going to be fine. For the button themselves, like for the shirt, a lot of people may have buttons. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to bring in your close-up of a button, and you're going to do the same process we've been doing, except this time you're going to only use half of it. Right? And we're going to say it's good enough, and we're going to bring it down underneath the UV so we can see where the edge is. I'm going to say, I think one of these buttons was roughly on this edge. Sure. And that placement should be enough. Turn that off. Save it. Check it. This is also, yeah, perfect-ish, right? So we would just erase around. We'd copy it first, then we'd erase around it, just to see how that lays out, right? But that's basically what you want. You blend in, erase that part until you get what you get, right? I'm going to finish this, and then I will see you next time. Like I said, I was going to put a seam around the edge here. I'd also put a seam on the shirt. But basically, you want to get all of your shirt and your pants or your shorts. If you got pockets, you put your butt pockets back there. Get all of those details on there, and then you are good to go. Right? Once again, you may have to work on this a little after school. That's kind of how it works. If you want it to look good, that's what you do. But it looks pretty cool already. And if I don't like the density on this thing, I could always like I could go back into Photoshop, take that whole layer back under the pants section, right? And I could increase the density, because once again, under the pants, I've got like the pant material itself, right? And it's also kind of good because you can see where your other problems are. So you like select all this, but not pants, not that, but that. And that, and that, and that, and then just erase all this junk that should not be there. Like this side seam stuff. Come on, that's ridiculous. Where is it? Yeah, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? You, what are you doing? Yeah, get out of there. Yeah, that's junk. Right. Also, watch out for like weird issues like that. Make sure if you can get rid of like weird sharp seams, get rid of them. Be careful you're not too harsh. Anyway, it's gotta go. All right, you got the idea. Get the details in. Get all of this done. Get your shoes done. Get your pants done. Get your clothes done. Add your buttons. Add your seams. We've already done the process. You know how it works. You know how to check what you're working on. And then next time we'll work on the meat suit, which is super disgusting. All right. So let's double check our handy dandy framework here. Material details are what we're doing now. So yeah, next time. The stuff of nightmares, like hairy flesh meat suit, totally disgusting. So yeah, that'll be good, and then we're basically done. After that, we'll do some subtle things for the maps and stuff like that. But basically, we're done. All right. Well, thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, make sure you leave questions in the comment section, and I will get back to you almost immediately. I really try hard to do that, and. Yeah, that's basically it. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.